One thing what product designers don't really do, and it comes from that hardcore UX capability from my experience, is they don't go enough in depth about what is there right now. And what I mean by that is maybe you did the research and you know for sure what you're dealing with, but again, you need to consider it holistically. Hey, what is up? Welcome back, Design Squad. I have another portfolio to review, and today I have a product design portfolio review for Adrian from Barcelona. And right off the bat, as you can see, Adrian's portfolio looks pretty good. Clean, it has a introduction about him, who he is, what he's passionate about, what he can do for you, I guess, as a client, as a potential employer. So he lists his key skill sets, I guess key selling points. And one caveat here is that he's a consultant, meaning that he's, the clients come to him, I guess, for a specific skill set. So they're, for example, maybe looking for a prototyping effort, a user research effort, maybe wireframing or product design. Some clients might not know that they need end-to-end UX, but they know that they are lacking in prototypes, let's say, or product design. And I think that's what he's trying to address, which is great. So you need to know your market, you need to know what you're applying for. So he's just describing all those different capabilities of what he can bring to the client. And when he jumps into a portfolio, he has a few cases. What I liked about it is that he explains each of those capabilities. As a creative, for example, he can do strategy, and when he explains all those capabilities, what's his vision of what he brings to the table, I guess, and some social proofing, which is important. If you as a designer can do that, that's really good, because all those messages you talk about yourself, it all is backed up by some sort of person. So if you can bring that, maybe it's your LinkedIn recommendation or something like that, you could bring it in, and then let the people talk about you instead of you defining what you are and what you can do. And so in the same sense, he also goes about the prototyping, sketches, wireframing, prototype, UI, user test. Because Adrian is located in Spain, I guess English is not his first language, so there are a few bits which I would change from grammar perspective. So I would recommend to just maybe have a friend or someone else to review it. Then it would flow much better, because I see what you're trying to say as myself, who's not really a native English as well. But I can understand what you're saying basically. But still, if you can improve that, then it flows even better, and maybe you can then attract international clients easier. Also, one thing what I would consider is that it would be almost apples to apples comparison. So for example, here you say that you do sketches, wireframes, prototypes, UI, user test, latest tools. So user test and latest tools almost becomes like a different category, because you talk about your skills here, right, which you can bring. But user testing is not, it's almost like a process you would run through, right, part of your research. And also latest tools might just require, if you put it somewhere else, it's just gonna flow much easier and easier to understand what you're trying to say with this. Now, for research, what I found out interesting is, would advise you to do is split the research into your standard stakeholder market research and user research. Because I think if you combine the two into a blanket statement like personas, usability tests, because persona is a deliverable, it's not really a research type, right? It's a tool for you to take the user research, the interview data, the journey maps, the captured needs, pain points, opportunities, insights, and put it in a persona sheet. So it's a single entry you can use to communicate that to your project team or your client, right? So it's just one of the tools within the user research methodology, right? So I would separate those and also branch out how deep your user research is, because to me, I would be worried, let's say, as a potential employer for a designer's position, especially in UX, I would be very, very picky of how good your user research skills are, because I understand you're creative, so you focus more on the product design rather than hardcore UX research, very deep experience mapping efforts, interviews, several different studies, a lot of hypotheses to prove, things of that nature, which I get it. But still, I would rephrase this so it's kind of like, it's clear that you have user research, you have your stakeholder workshops and research you do, some sort of industry benchmarks, competitive analysis, stuff like that, just so it's clear that you understand it, so you don't just botch all of it together. Without waffling too much about peripherals, so let's jump to a portfolio. One theme what I notice in Adrian's cases is that there's a lot of text basically, and one thing what I picked up is the tone of voice, which is very friendly and approachable, and I liked it myself. But it could be hindering because that tone of voice what I would expect you to tell in the interview. And let me show you one example of what you are saying. For example, here, the team was building day by day a platform based on, as usually happens, developers and market insights. That means creating by consequence and not proactively. That means I had to define yada yada, but I would almost expect those fill-ins in the cracks to be told in the interview. I would simplify your story you're telling here, and it's the same in other cases. So let me just really quickly show you. And you're saying benchmark as its purest essence and holistic analysis of our beloved dinosaur. The previous platform was even worse, and you're talking about this old platform you were working on to redesign it basically. I understand what you're trying to say. Again, English is a bit needs tweaking here, and maybe you're giving too much in your portfolio, like ideas, inspiration, early solutions, and oldie but Goldie SWOT, basically strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis, right? For example, here, as you can see, problem, which is basically business problem. I guess the challenge, you're saying problem, which problem, all fine. So there is a sense of humor here, which is great, but you just need to be very careful how you use it, especially if you're gonna add all text. Some people just might not get it, and you might struggle to get in. Another bit, because I just jumped from one case to another case, is that you introduce it with one image, and I understand maybe some of it is under NDA, but almost all of these bits, which whatever you talk about, like desk research and interviews and collaborative ideation and rapid prototyping, UI plans, stuff like that, I would expect to see it. Show me, don't just tell about it, because a lot of people, a hiring manager, specifically for the opportunities which are, for let's say permanent positions or contract, they're definitely going to look and scan it. For example, 3 minutes read, it would take me a lot longer to read because I'm a very, very, very slow reader. First scan the headlines as a hiring manager myself, as your portfolio user, then I would dig deeper if that sounds right, or if there's something missing, or maybe you're not telling something purposely, and then so I would look for a detail there. But the eyes, you have to kind of show more than you're telling. One thing what I notice in a lot of product designer portfolios is that there is only a few steps in the research. So let's say you're saying desk research, interviews and surveys, collaborate ideation, and then you go into that. So all of that, it's definitely spot on, from in the ideations. You almost cannot get it wrong. One thing what product designers don't really do, and it comes from that hardcore UX capability from my experience, is they don't go enough in depth about what is there right now. And what I mean by that is, maybe you did the research and you know for sure what you're dealing with, but again, you need to consider it holistically. What are the users and what sort of issues they're going through day by day? And that platform itself is only a few touch points in a bigger journey around it. So how do your users arrive to that platform? What do they do? All of that should be captured from UX perspective, if it's proper UX. If it's product design, of course, you might work with a product manager and maybe they feed you some insights, and you can quickly and lean run to the solutions immediately. But if you would apply for UX position, I would probably question if that's enough for UX, let's say, because you need to be much more holistic. You need to be very, very specific with your methods. You need to have some sort of framework. So maybe even introducing a framework in each case, and on a high level, what sort of steps you took. And again, show more than tell. In other cases, for example, with Movistar, you're showcasing the prototype and how does it flow. Me as a potential hiring manager, I want to see more about that. I want to see how did you arrive to that, like all the journey maps, all the persona work, all the stuff you talk about in the text here down below. I would really care about that result and how did you arrive at. And lastly, if we jump to the about page, which is where a few different bits going on, contact me, call to action elements, LinkedIn, and this is what I like, and I think a lot of designers don't do enough, is showcase their clients, use them as a gravitas for their work. Sometimes, again, you're not going to be able to showcase NDA work, but perhaps that logo gonna resonate with another client who might be, I don't know, for example, Rakuten sportswear, right? So maybe someone like Nike would be like, okay, he worked for Rakuten, maybe he could do something good for us as well. So that could work as well. And also for everyone else, if you like this video, give a like, subscribe to his channel, let me know what you think about it. And on that note, I'll see you next time.